In this video, we are celebrating the Walt Disney Company's 100th anniversary. 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. Pretty amazing stuff. We're going to talk about everything from the studio to the theme parks to the man himself, Mr. Walt Disney, up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to this episode of OG 55 on this amazing day, the 100th year of the Walt Disney Company to the day. So we're going to celebrate Disney. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the studio, the theme parks, all kinds of stuff. The 100th anniversary celebration in and of itself, we'll dive into that, the good and the bad. But before I do that, I want to introduce, the one, the only, the Italiano, Citrus George, host of Citrus Corner here on the channel. Welcome back, George.
Thanks for having me on, and glad to be on a special day, a special occasion. So can't wait to talk some Walt Disney Company history with you, brother.
Absolutely. Where can the good folks at home find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also check out the podcast I'm part of called A Walk with Walt, where we actually dive into even more in-depth history of the man, the legend, the myth, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Walt Disney. Strike that, reverse it. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Absolutely. And we're going to get started. So, as they say,
nothing can stop us now.
Nothing can stop us now. All right, George. So before we dive into the history of the Walt Disney Company studio parks and all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about the 100th anniversary celebration in and of itself, right? So this has been going on now for, I think it kicked off, what was it, back in January?
Correct.
That it got kicked off. So it's almost been a year now, and we've seen a lot of stuff roll out, especially at Disneyland Resort specifically. That seems to be sort of like the hub of this celebration. What are your overall thoughts on the celebration? Do you like it, love it, hate it, good, bad, ugly? Where do you stand, George?
I'm basically on the middle ground. I mean, if we were just talking Star Wars, I'd be on the high ground.
Right, exactly.
But it's okay for me. It's something that you put up some decorations, you title it as, this monumentous occasion, which it is.
Yeah.
But I miss how Disney used to have these milestone celebrations, sort of like how they did with Disneyland's 50th and Disneyland's 60th. Those were the two pinnacle celebrations where Disney actually did it right.
Right.
And I feel like after Disneyland's 60th, there really hasn't been too much going on. And then when they did Walt Disney World's 50th, which was a complete blunder in itself, and partial of that you can blame on the shutdown and the pandy. I get it. They had to work with what they had, but I still think that they could have had something a little bit more, little more seamless than what they gave us.
Yeah, and I feel like also one of my criticisms of current Disney anniversaries in general is that they seem to take themselves way too seriously. I like sometimes to have a serious emotional show here and there, right? That's great. Wonders Journeys is one of my favorite things about the 100th, and it's a serious kind of show, very emotional, right? Mm-hmm. But one thing that I think is missing in a lot of anniversaries at Disney now is just having fun, right? If you remember watching Disneyland's 10th, the 10 years of Disneyland, it was a fun celebration. It didn't take itself overly serious. You had literally slices of cake dancing in front of the castle, right? Just a fun ass time. And I think Disney's missing that right now with anniversaries. Everything is super serious and very, just, I don't know. I wish they would mix it up a little bit, right?
Well, do you even remember, I don't know if you had seen it, there was a parade called Mickey Mania.
Yeah.
Where they had dancing mouse ears and gloves, and it's it was like pieces of Mickey Mouse, that was dancing. You wouldn't see that because logistically, you're thinking, okay, why would you see an oversized Mickey glove walking and
Right.
dancing in the streets? But they did that before, just like how you mentioned with the cake, for the 25th anniversary for Walt Disney World and what have you. And I feel like now with the anniversaries, it's strongly, heavily put on for food and merchandise. That's
Yeah.
basically what these anniversaries are for. It's like you got to buy the Spirit jersey, you have to buy the T-shirt, the hoodie, the sweatshirt, the jacket, or try these specialty food items or these beverages, and it's like, which is great, but that should be on the back burner of what the anniversary is about, rather than it be the full showcase of it.
No, 100%, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely a merch machine. This anniversary got off to a rocky start when all the banners at Disneyland along the tram route and all that were spelt incorrectly. They had all kinds of grammatical errors. The dates were wrong on some of that stuff. That was a huge black eye, I think, for this anniversary starting off. The Mickey statue in the hub, the quote was wrong.
Quotes, yep.
Stuff like that. I don't know. That kind of stuff has been kind of the worst of it. I do think, though, overall, it's been a fairly good anniversary. Like I said, shout out to Christopher Lenertz for Wondrous Journeys.
Yes.
Amazing show. Honestly, probably my favorite Disneyland fireworks show they've ever done. And that's saying something, because Remember was an amazing show. But I think this one's even better than that, in my opinion. I think this animated short, Once Upon a Studio, which I haven't seen yet, looking forward to seeing that. I think that's going to be a real highlight of this anniversary. I think that kind of encapsulates what I was saying earlier, where Disney needs to infuse some fun into these anniversaries. I think that's a good start. That little short feels like a very fun. It's not overly serious with 100 years ago, the magic began. It's not like that. It's just the characters, old school Disney, the characters in the studio being the characters, Mickey and Minnie. It just looks like feels like that old school Disney magic in a lot of ways. So I think that'll be a real highlight of this anniversary. So we'll kind of see,
Yeah, rather than them say like Mickey, hey folks, thank you for joining us for the 100th anniversary. Like it just moves into a storyline that promotes the 100th, but it's not necessarily about the 100th.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. I remember watching, you remember watching Walt Disney on TV and stuff, and he would be in his office, and there would be Tinkerbell in the room with him, and he would dust off the pixie dust. Hey, you pixie dusters! No, but he would dust off the pixie dust off his suit and everything, or Donald Duck, would be in the room with him, and or Donald would be on his desk or whatever. So this Once Upon a Studio feels like a throwback to those days, where the animated characters are in the studio and everything, and it just feels right for the 100th,
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Walt, though, there is a new statue over at Hong Kong Disneyland. Did you see this one? This is to celebrate the 100th anniversary.
I actually really, really am digging this statue, and here's why. Yes, the original one at the hub at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, classic. You kind of have to have that. But I love where they give more personality to Walt as if he was still here with us. It's not just him kind of standing stiff and in a pose, like in a stiff pose or what have you. These statues, now that they're coming out with, are a little bit more animated, where it shows more personality of Walt as the human himself. And they sort of kind of touched upon that a little bit, the way they did the storyteller statue over at DCA.
Well, yeah, and ever since the DCA statue, I think they've been really killing it, crushing it with these statues, because the partner statue, you're right, it's in the planter, and then it's elevated like this godlike figure. He stands above us all, right? Where these statues, like the storyteller statue at DCA and this new one over at Hong Kong Disneyland, it brings Walt to ground level with everybody else. And I think that's a better...
That's how he always wanted to perceive himself.
Right. I think it's just a better representation of Walt and being in there with families and stuff, instead of being totally up there on that platform. I love this. honestly, dare I say it, George, and I'm probably going to get a lot of crap for this in the comments, I would replace the partner statue at Disneyland with this. I would love this over there. I'd love it.
Yeah, I love the statues where, and that even includes his brother Roy with Minnie Mouse. I love the statues where you can kind of get your photo taken with them. You know, they're down to ground level as if they're actually there. You know, I think they're really cool.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. So we'll see. But now I want to dive into, now that we talked about the 100th anniversary itself, I really want to discuss with you, George, the studio part of the company. We just basically celebrate the studio. Out of all the decades of Disney animation, we have 100 years worth of animation now. From 1923 to 2023. What is your favorite decade of Disney animation?
So for me, and I'm not just saying this of being biased because I was a 90s kid. I have watched every single decade of the Disney animation and I enjoy them all for many different purposes. But for me, it would have to be the Renaissance era of the Disney animation.
Okay.
Hands down. I feel like that even though the golden age of animation when Walt was around with he did Snow White, which basically built his animation studio from that movie. You even have Mary Poppins, and Pinocchio and Fantasia and Peter Pan and what have you. But for me, I feel like if you go back to those the Renaissance era with the animation, with Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and The Lion King, if I go back and I look at that animation, I could never depict of whether to say if they could use that animation now or that was back in the 90s.
Right.
Like it's very seamless to the notion of it doesn't look old.
No.
The Renaissance animation ages really well because the color scheme, the graphics, the storyline, the characters, everything. And it's not just because that was the era that I grew up in. I just feel like that is where animation for Disney was at its high.
Well, and the thing I love about the Renaissance era is that it has a foot in the past and a foot in the future, sort of. Like, it feels very much like something that Walt would have done. You take a movie like Beauty and the Beast, that looks like a movie that could sit on the shelf next to Cinderella or next to Alice in Wonderland. Like, the style of animation, the way it was done feels like a Walt era movie, but it's new enough where it separates itself a little bit from that era as well. So it's a perfect mix, I love that. The other thing I love about the Renaissance era is it was Disney's biggest comeback ever. I mean, this animation studio was like down and out. They got kicked out of the studio. They were working out of bungalows,
Yeah.
And they churned out Little Mermaid and then Beauty and the Beast
and a big piece of that success, that essential ingredient, which unfortunately we don't have right now, was the phenomenal, brilliant Howard Ashman.
Yes. Oh yeah.
When he spearheaded that along with the animators and the directors and his partner Alan Menken for the music. For me, Howard took these stories and did something that nobody, I think, has done ever, and up until that point was, I remember watching Beauty and the Beast, and it literally felt like I was watching a Broadway show because he came from Broadway. He was from New York,
Right.
he came and, back and forth between there and California and what have you. So to infuse his talent from Broadway and incorporate that in not just a film, but an animated film, that was pure genius.
Well, yeah, and what people don't understand is that Howard Ashman, the music was vital to the success of these films, because what he did was he created the tent poles in these films. So the musical acts, which would be the tent poles, and then they kind of they would be able to craft the story around these musical numbers. So there's a reason why the Howard Ashman movies kick major ass, because he did an amazing job with this music, and it gave the storytellers a lot to work with. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought up Howard Ashman. I am a huge Howard Ashman fan. I absolutely love him. I love what he did for Disney. I believe his documentary Howard is still on Disney Plus.
It is. They were going to remove it, but I think even I don't know the fans, and I think even certain people at the company itself, I believe, including the producer and director Don Hahn,
Yeah.
Forged for that to stay on, and I'm glad it did.
Absolutely. Come on, it's a sin it would be a sin to remove that from the platform, you know? So yeah, all the love to Howard Ashman. Now, my favorite decade, this is interesting because the Renaissance era, I mean, is amazing. I mean, and Disney has a lot of amazing decades, you know, in animation. I think my least favorite, just to start with that, is the 70s.
Okay.
I didn't like the 70s. It just feels kind of depressing. And I think maybe because it was like that post Walt, it was still fresh that he
Right.
passed away.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually agree with you on that. And also, too, a lot of the talent was very lackluster, even though it came from the same animators that Walt worked with, including the Nine Old Men.
Right.
But because they didn't have their leader, it's almost like they didn't know how to approach these stories. And if you actually look at some of the animation, they reused the animation style. So like when you watch Robin Hood or
Right.
the Aristocats and they're doing the dancing sequence, it's actually back even when they did it in Snow White,
Right.
the same kind of movement and everything because they couldn't really come up with something kind of original.
Well, and when it was cost saving and all that stuff, and it was just for me the 70s were a real dark time for Disney in terms of animation. At least
Yeah.
it wasn't the greatest. It just feels down to me. My favorite era though is actually the 50s. I love the 1950s animation with the Mary Blair influence. Peter Pan, Alice, I believe Cinderella was part of that era. Sleeping Beauty, love it. I just feel like that's kind of like the quintessential Disney look, right? In animation. You look at a movie like Peter Pan, it's just so perfectly Disney. It has all the beats with the magic and the wonder and how bright and colorful it was. I just loved it. And Mary Blair, another Disney legend, was a huge part of all that, of that era, you know? So big shout out to Mary Blair. But yeah, the 50s were my favorite. Now look, Disney has a lot of great decades in animation. I mean, it's kind of hard to choose, to be honest, but
It really is. Now, being that you mentioned the 50s, now Sleeping Beauty was my favorite Disney animated film in the 50s because the architectural background that, as you had mentioned, like between Ivan Earl, like
Right.
Ivan Earl, like he was a a master scope genius of like when you have these characters in the forefront of the shot, but then you see that background of Stefan's castle and the mountains and the plains of the grass and everything and what have you. It was like, oh my gosh, you would never think that came from the 50s. And then
incredible.
then the start of the 60s with 101 Dalmatians, they started that photocopying thing.
Right.
And it's like
a sketchy look.
Yeah. And it was like, which it fit well with that movie.
Oh, yeah.
But when you come off of the back of Sleeping Beauty, you're like, oh my God, what the hell happened?
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. Sleeping Beauty, they've never done another movie like that. That animation style. I would love to see them dip back into that. But maybe you can do it in CGI. But that stylized Sleeping Beauty style would be so cool for a film nowadays. I would love that. Some people say that Wish is sort of reminiscent of that old Sleeping Beauty style. I don't really see that, to be honest. But
yeah, I don't either. I think honestly, for me, Sleeping Beauty is like one of those standalone films that is basically like a one, and you'll never see it again.
I mean, look at how the dragon looks, Maleficent and stuff. Very angular. It's not a very realistic take of a dragon. Very stylized. We've never seen that again in an animated film from Disney. Just love it. Absolutely love it.
And the choreography for the battle scene between Prince Philip and the dragon was so intricate, and it's like it almost feels like you're watching literally a live action piece because they did have live action references.
Yeah, well, it's a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. Everything about that movie is amazing. Now, I told you my favorite and my least favorite decade. What's your least favorite decade, George?
My least favorite, I would actually have to say for animation goes, I would have to say the 80s
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
as far as like the films go, not now
Okay.
I'm not like with the Disney Channel,
Right,
like
right.
Disney Afternoon, like that's yeah. But for me, because I mean, if you really look at the '80s, I mean, you have the Fox and the Hound, you have the Black Cauldron. Aside from the Little Mermaid, because the Little Mermaid is like for me is that cutoff point.
Right. Well, you also have The Great Mouse Detective and Oliver and Company.
Correct.
And then you have, I think, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which really isn't, that wasn't even a Disney movie when it came out. It was Touchstone, technically, but
Yeah.
it's kind of,
So for me, I felt like there was less produced in the '80s.
yeah,
So even though I do agree with you with the '70s, I feel like a lot of those movies were, very lackluster. But I still feel like Disney produced more
right.
in the '70s more than the '80s.
So the 80s, huh? Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, that's definitely a contender for the worst for sure. Yeah, it ended strong. You're right with Little Mermaid, but it was like literally like the last year. Like I
Yeah.
think because I think Little Mermaid came out in '89 and it was like November. It
Yeah,
was
it was like
like
right at the end.
right at the very end. So I mean, Great Mouse Detective was cool, but I think that they were trying to do like the whole like I don't know, like Don Bluth thing or something. It feels very like
Yeah.
Don Bluthy or like I don't know, like maybe tapping into that American Tail kind
Yeah.
of style or
Well, because you
something.
also have to think too, because the way that I mean, I am a fan of Don Bluth. I mean, I'm sorry,
Oh
An
yeah.
American Tail
Oh Jesus,
is.
a
I mean,
great
that
movie.
movie is. I mean, and don't get me started on the song "Somewhere Out There." You want to
Oh,
see someone bawling like a freaking baby?
oh
It's
geez,
like,
that an incredible movie.
um,
Incredible movie.
but aside from how he was with Disney, I mean, he kind of played Disney dirty. I mean, like where he ended up taking more than half of the animators with him,
Right.
and they just all jumped in the truck, and he's like, "Adios."
Adios. Well, and that happens. From what I'm hearing, John Lasseter, when he left, he took a bunch of people with him too.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that later today. There's going to be a video release with Jay Shear of Story Geeks. We're talking Pixar
Yes.
later tonight. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Now, we'll dive into. I want to ask you one more thing about the movies, and then we're going to dive into some TV. I'm glad you brought up the television because I know
Yes.
that's a thing you love. So I really
Oh,
want
I
to
do.
discuss that
I
and
love
pick
it.
your brain with that.
Yes.
So, what is your favorite out of the 100 years? Your favorite animated Disney movie?
Honestly, going back to it, I have to go to Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, okay.
I that film just I don't know, it hit me in a certain way where with the music, the characters, the storyline, the animation, and the fact of the incredible feat that it had reached with the milestone that it was the at the time like the only best picture Academy Award nominated film to be nominated with Best Picture,
Yeah.
not Best Animated Film,
Best
Best
Picture.
Picture of the year.
Yeah.
For which I'm sorry, I do enjoy Silence of the Lambs, but I'm sorry, Beauty and the Beast should have had it.
I was so mad. I was so mad. And I was pretty young when that happened, but I was still so mad it lost to that.
Yeah.
I was so upset. I mean, come on, give it to Beauty and the Beast. This studio had the biggest comeback of all time. I mean, and this is a masterpiece of a movie. Oh, God, I wish it would have took that award. I really do. And I agree with you. That's my favorite too. Beauty and the Beast. It straddles the modern era and the Walt era seamlessly, perfectly. Yes. I absolutely love that movie. I mean, dare I say it? I mean, that movie's better than some of the stuff that Walt Disney did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
because you even have to think that's a movie Walt could not figure out.
Right.
He attempted so many times and then he put the book back on the shelf and he just couldn't, which I am glad he did. Because I feel like that if they would have done it during the time that they attempted to, it would have been a completely different story. And Walt was a man's man that said, you know what? I can't figure this out. I'm not going to produce crap just for the sake of producing it. If it's not going to work, we're not going to do it. We're going to shelve it. And I'm glad I did it. It definitely paid off. And before we move into television, now I have a question for you.
Sure.
Out of all the Disney animated films, what's your favorite song?
Oh, tough one. Okay. Honestly, I think it would come from Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star. I think that's a gorgeous song, and it really does represent Disney as a whole. beautifully, I think. So I think that's my favorite Disney song, actually. What about you?
Okay, nice. Mine is A Whole New World
Oh, that's a good one.
from
Yeah.
Aladdin.
You
Uh,
are a Renaissance dude, huh?
I'm
You're
a
a Renaissance
Renaissance
guy.
dude. Yes, I am. I for some reason I just connected to that song,
Oh, it's
and
great.
it means a lot more than it just being of how it is in the film where Aladdin is taking Jasmine on this magical carpet ride. But when you think of the lyrics that that they that Alan Menken and even Howard Ashman had a part of. Unfortunately, he didn't get to have that full experience because he sadly passed before the movie was completed. Um, but just like the lyrics of that, where it touches upon, you can start off somewhere and a journey into somewhere else can take you anywhere. The sky's the limit, so to
Right.
speak.
Well,
And that always resonated with me.
yeah, and some of the Disney music that hits the hardest and that becomes the most popular are the songs that that you can relate to in your personal life. Like, for example, Whole New World, right? You can apply that. You're starting a new job, you have a new relationship, right? That song applies to you, right? It has meaning. Let It Go is another one from Frozen. I mean, that could be anything. You just left a toxic relationship, or you ended a toxic friendship, or you're moving to a new city, and it's that anthem to let it go, and you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
These songs have more meaning outside of the films themselves.
Exactly.
So now let's dive into a little TV. Now we'll talk about Disney Channel, because I know you're a Disney Channel guy,
Yeah.
and we'll talk just in general Disney television animation. We'll start with Disney Channel. Okay. This is interesting. The Disney Channel has, unfortunately, in my opinion, and I'm not the age group on the demo anymore, so maybe that's why, has really jumped the shark. I mean, it's not what it was in like the 80s and even the 90s. But what would be your all-time favorite Disney Channel show?
Oh boy. Okay, so in the era that I grew up in, I had two very distinct versions of the Disney Channel. When I was very young, they had the classic Disney Channel, which I absolutely loved, where they had the Mickey Mouse shorts,
Right.
the Donald Duck shorts, the Pluto shorts, the Goofy how-to shorts,
Mouser size.
the Mouser skies. I mean, God. And then with that, and then there's shows that a lot of people don't really pay attention to or know about, like the Adventures in Wonderland,
right?
Which a known fact, a lot of people don't know, that was shot down in Florida at the time when it was at Disney MGM Studios.
Now, what is that? Okay, so what building is there now? Like, what is there now?
That was in one of the. Okay, so that was in one of the sound stages when they were still doing the backlot tour. So that is currently where I believe Toy Story Land is now.
That's crazy. That's sad, though. That's sad.
Yeah. I mean, because there was a lot of Disney history that was made at MGM Studios. I mean, Mulan was heavily
MMC.
MMC. I mean, come on, Brittany, Christina.
Come on,
Lord.
Yeah, I mean, JC Chazé, Tony Luca, Justin, Kerry Russell. A lot of talent. I know. I know. Curly hair, don't care. She had like the big curly hair. I used to love her.
Yeah, she didn't care.
I actually met her once. I got a funny story real quick.
Yeah.
So when I was like 13 or 14.
Is this when they did the Mickey Mouse Club tour where they went to the malls and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't malls, but it was they went to Target. Right.
Oh, okay.
And the Target, like right down the street from me, actually, they ended up playing in the parking lot of that Target. So I went with my mom at the time. I was only like 14. So I went with my mom at the time. We're ready to see Mickey Mouse Club. It started to pour rain, and it's out of the parking lot. So it's like, so they ended up canceling the concert. But because everyone was there, they're like, okay, what we'll do then is we'll set up some tables inside the Target, and we'll let you meet the kids, the MMC members, and take pictures with them. So we got to meet everybody. I got a picture with Carrie Russell. I gotta dig that up, dude. I gotta dig that picture up because I'm rocking like this Mickey Mouse leather jacket, and I'm like just like chilling with Carrie Russell. It's the dopest picture ever. I gotta one of these days we'll do a show and I'll show everybody. I gotta dig it out of storage.
Definitely you have to. I got to see that picture now. You got me
Fantastic. Curious. But go ahead. I do apologize. I don't want to tell that story.
No. I'm glad you did. No, it was cool. Hey, it's still a piece of Disney history. You got to meet Carrie Russell. That was part of the MMC.
Yeah.
But then there was also shows that a lot of people, as I was saying, that kind of either forgot about or didn't know that was on there. They had the Pooh Corner.
Yes, that's great.
Dumbo Circus.
That I know you have a soft spot for that one.
I do. I have a soft spot for Dumbo Circus because I mean, like that was like, oh my gosh. And then there was a show called, and I know you know this, but again, a lot of people don't know. It came actually from Canada. It was a Canada show, but they ended up premiering it eventually on the Disney Channel called Under the Umbrella Tree.
Yes, I remember that with the three puppets.
Puppets.
Yeah, I forgot the names. I think the little otter or something. I think it was Gloria.
It was Gloria the Gopher. Iggy the iguana and Jay the blue jay.
Should I pull up an image so people?
Yeah, go for it. And then they lived in like an apartment building with their human friend. Her name was Holly. And again, this was I believe they shot it in Canada. It was a Canada show, and then I guess Disney picked it up for the television broadcasting. Which again, it was in the same time slot with Dumbo Circus and Pooh Corner. So that was like the first part of the Disney Channel that I grew up like as a young kid. Yep, this is it. Oh man, does that take me back?
I'm telling you, man. I used to watch the show religiously. I used to love this show. And actually, there's actually something. You want to hear something really weird? Mm-hmm. The little iguana, right? Mm-hmm. There's an episode of this show where the little iguana says something like, it's good luck to put your left shoe on first. Okay. Like when you're putting your shoes on, right? He was saying like if you put your left one on, it's good luck.
Okay.
I don't know why that has fucking stuck with me all these years.
Really?
And I think about it all the time now when I put my shoes on. To this day, I still think about that. It's so fucking weird. I don't know why, but I'm like, oh yeah, I might have to do my left one. Ever since it's on one of these episodes, I don't even remember which one it was. But yeah, pretty funny, dude.
Great. Now I got to go search for it.
Yeah, but it was a great show. You're right. It was a Canadian show, amazing. Dumbo Circus was it also interesting, which is weird because Dumbo didn't have a voice in the movie.
Correct.
But then in the show, they gave him a voice. Now, if they did that today, Diz Twitter would be a buzz.
Oh my gosh, it'd be like, oh, how dare they?
They're breaking canon, or some shit, Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but yeah, Dumbo Circus was a good one too. Yeah. I love that.
So probably from that era. Like growing up in the original Disney Channel, I would have to say Dumbo Circus was that. Then the newer, like as I got older into my preteens, teenage years, then you start getting into. I grew up with like the Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven, Even Stevens.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So yes, I mean I don't really think I have like an all-time favorite. I used to watch them. But it wasn't like, I mean, hell, I even watched the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh, that's funny. With Brenda Song.
Brenda Song. Oh, I did. I swear to God, man. I was watching something, and it was like the Sweet Life. I was watching something on YouTube, and my mom was watching it with me. And Brenda's song came up because they were doing an interview. Oh, it was an interview on, I think it was like E! Entertainment Tonight, where Cole Sprouse, they were interviewing them because he does Riverdale. And he was there in the studio, and he kind of interrupted the interview because they were talking to Brenda's song about something. So her and Cole were going back and forth. So I was watching it on the living room TV with my mom, and she said, and she said without a beat, she said, I bet you Chris would like her.
That's funny. Yeah, your mom knows me very well. Yeah. Your mom knows me very well.
And I said, oh yeah. I said, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I used to watch a lot of, like, the old school 80s Disney Channel. I used to watch a lot of the same ones you did. I love Dumbo Circus. Under the Umbrella Tree was amazing. Adventures in Wonderland, which is actually, that was probably my favorite, Adventures in Wonderland. I really,
yeah, that's right. I did mention that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's probably like a close second for me after Dumbo Circus because they touched upon what I loved with the Adventures of Wonderland is they took the basic storyline of Alice, but at that time they incorporated life lessons into
right,
that show where they talked about the hearing impaired, where they
right,
talk about feelings being hurt, how to give instead of taking. Like there was a lot of life
yeah.
messages incorporated in that show, but it incorporated with the characters from Wonderland, which I thought was
Right.
absolutely it was
So,
genius.
so what you're saying, it was woke.
Basically, yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I'm telling you, if they did a show like that
But if they
today,
did it today, they'd be
yeah,
like, "Oh my god, how dare they?"
it's so
It's
woke.
like so now when we get into the animation side of the Disney Channel.
Well, not even just the Disney Channel. If you want to dip into, we'll just do Disney television animation.
Okay. Okay.
So like, there's a blank,
Okay.
overall canvas for you.
So for me, I mean, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, DuckTales. Like I think for me was especially Darkwing Duck. Like I
Yeah.
religiously like I mean hell I was going to like as I was going to school like I would hear like the repetitive like speech of his like I am the terror that flaps in the night and
Right.
it's like oh my god it's like
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck was like I think that was my top Disney television. I
Yeah.
think out of everything, like even over Dumbo Circus,
Okay.
like I think Darkwing Duck was the one that like
Registered the most with you.
registered the most. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites too. I love that kind of like how they took DuckTales like with the ducks and they went in that different direction with the superhero and like living with Goslin and stuff. I thought
Yeah.
that was a really clever thing. I like that.
Which was interesting because at that time they were creating characters that never existed before. So they were literally taking characters that would be part of the world of DuckTales or Goof Troop, but they gave them their own identity. And it's
Right.
like, and it's a shame too because you don't hear anything really of Darkwing Duck. He may make an appearance like for a special event, like at the parks or what have you. But I was really hoping for a Darkwing Duck comeback after they did Ducktales.
Well, there was rumors that strong rumors that they were going to do a reboot of Darkwing, and that was a couple years ago. I don't know what happened with that because the DuckTales reboot from 2017 was actually very successful. I mean, it was doing numbers. I mean, people liked it, and they were around that era, around that time. They said that they're working on a. I think it's Seth Rogen, if I'm not mistaken, was attached to that Darkwing Duck reboot project.
Okay.
But I mean, it's been years now, so who knows, And we also have the writer strike and all that, and since then, so I don't even know if it's still a thing. But yeah, Darkwing resonated with me quite a bit. Goof Troop was fantastic. I think that was such a great thing for Goofy. It really fleshed out his character. He's a family man. He's the best dad in the world. He's not perfect, but he just loves his kids so much. The neighbor Pete with his hot wife Peg, right? Oh,
Again, you can't have that stuff anymore.
come on, Peg was thick, man.
Yeah.
Peg was thick. I mean, that was a great show, though. I really like Goof Troop. And DuckTales was good. I liked it. I was a fan. Okay, I was definitely a fan. The theme song was like the best part of it, I think, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about gummy bears? Were you ever a big gummy bears fan?
I did like the gummy bears.
Yeah.
I can't say like I absolutely loved it. I think it was like on the same platform as DuckTales.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck was like my number one. Goof Troop was number two.
Tailspin, where does that fall?
Tailspin. I forgot about Tailspin.
Bum 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 bum. Did it?
That would have to be number three.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have to be Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, Tailspin, and then DuckTales and Gummy Bears. I would say kind of tie like at closer.
And then we have Rescue Rangers in there too.
Oh shit! That's right. Damn. Okay. No. Okay. No. So no. Wait. Oh damn.
There's just so many good ones.
There is no Darkwing, Goof Troop, Chippendale, Tailspin, and then Gummy Bears and
DuckTales.
DuckTales.
How did they, the music in those shows, the theme songs for all those shows are absolute bangers.
Oh my God, all of them. They could just have the music, and I swear to you, OG, I swear to you, I wanted to do that 90s freaking, that Disney afternoon after dark at Disneyland. Oh man, I would have killed to do that because I would have went all out. I would have dressed up in the 90s. They played Eye to Eye from a Goofy movie. They played all those uh the Disney afternoon songs with the fireworks. Oh man,
Oh.
I wish that they would redo that one again because I would so go to that event.
90s nostalgia is still pretty big. So maybe they will one day. That would be awesome. That would be,
Disney, if you could hear us, come on, bring it back.
bring it back, bring it back. So yeah, a really an amazing history, obviously, in animation at Disney, whether it be television, whether it be, feature films, obviously we can't tap into everything here today. There's just so much, but we're going to pivot now to theme parks, which is like, hey, we talk a lot about theme parks on this channel. It would be malpractice if we didn't bring up the theme parks. Since 1955, a lot has happened with Disney and theme parks. Now, in terms of theme parks, what is your favorite decade? It's a tough one.
Wow.
It's a tough one. I mean, I think, depending if you're a Disney Worlder or a Disneylander.
Yeah.
Because,
Now, when you say favorite decade as far as part of the Disney history or favorite decade that I had like a personal experience?
Well, it could be either one. Whatever the reasoning behind it is for you, that's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, whether it be just Disney history or whether it be, hey, this period of time in my life meant a lot to me at the park, so that's my favorite. Whatever it is,
Okay, so here's for me, and this actually, because I love history and I love Disney history. My favorite decade is actually right off the bank where Disneyland started to become very successful, and it was like a powerhouse name where it was already built. They had how many people go through the turnstiles, and then you have the mysterious Florida project or Project X,
right?
That Walt had all these plans, and you just like put on the TV and you just watch Walt talk to the audience of what his big plans are in Florida. And to now look at Walt Disney World of what it is today, even though he didn't actually have his handprints on it, but to just know that it was still his idea. When we walk into Epcot, it's again not exactly what he wanted.
Right.
But it has his vision of how he's seen technology and how he's seen culture and people in the world. And it was like, so even though I actually resonate Epcot more with Walt than the Magic Kingdom park.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
When it comes time for Walt Disney World.
Magic Kingdom is Roy's park.
Yeah.
Epcot is Walt's. Even though it's not the same Epcot, I still think of it as Walt's park,
Yeah.
Epcot is really the Disneyland of Florida, basically.
Yeah. So basically it was like the end era, like of the start of Disneyland. So I'd say like the late 50s going into the 60s that would lead up to the 70s.
Okay. That's interesting. I think my favorite decade would probably be the 60s because that's when Disneyland, what do we get in that decade? We got Pirates, Haunted, and Tiki Room. That's when Disneyland started to really come into its own, I think.
Basically it was always, so it's basically almost the same because it was like at the end, but for two different reasons. That's kind of interesting. So it's like the 60s were, because while all that Disneyland was getting all that stuff, that's when Walt was privately kind of misstruding what he was doing down in Florida.
No, 100%, 100%. And then, we can't ignore, and even though we both didn't choose this era, we can't ignore how big the 90s were for Walt Disney World.
The Disney decade.
I mean, Eisner went all in on Florida.
Yeah.
Like all in.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did for Florida, because when he came in 85, there was only two parks, right? There was Magic Kingdom and Epcot.
Correct. And then soon at MGM opened in 89.
So MGM opened when he was there for a few years. He got started on that right away.
Yeah.
And then we had so we had MGM, and then we had Animal Kingdom in like '98, I believe.
98, yes.
Okay, but that's not even including all the resorts. I mean, he was building a shit ton of resorts and all this other stuff, this ancillary
The water
stuff,
parks,
the water parks, and everything like that.
the downtown Disney district,
Pleasure Island.
yes.
So, I mean, Florida really saw a huge. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, of a Walt Disney World person, I mean, Eisner was the GOAT. I mean, he really was. He expanded that place like crazy.
I mean, people complain of like how little there is to do at Walt Disney World, like in the parks, like as far as attractions go. Think of how much less it would have been if Eisner didn't do the Disney Decade.
Oh yeah, I know. And being there in July, it's funny because a lot of that extra stuff, like the resorts and all that, I love that stuff, man. Like when we would get on the little boats and you know.
That to me makes more of what the identity of Walt Disney World.
Right.
For Walt Disney World, it's more than just the parks. Yes, you go to the parks, you know, and I think that's where it kind of differentiates, where you have a family that wants to do that once in a lifetime vacation, and you have young kids that just want to ride, you know, and it's like, well, how many rides are here? Oh, 7. Oh, that's kind of weak, which in a sense, I would love to see more rides and attractions at Animal Kingdom. Who wouldn't? But there's a bigger aspect to Walt Disney World than a lot of people really realize.
Well, and that's why when people say we reacted to the PC Dev video, you know, earlier, but when people say that Universal will be on top, you know, I disagree because Disney World is not just about ride counts and theme parks. You can't. Universal doesn't have the land to do what Walt Disney World has done with the waterways and all the stuff you can do over there with the boating and all that. You're not going to ever get that resort experience at Universal. You're just not. They can build another park with more rides in it, but what they offer at Disney World is a very unique experience you will probably never get anywhere else.
I mean, where can you go other than Walt Disney World to have dinner at the California Grill up at the very top of the Contemporary, and you can step outside out on the outside balcony after having dinner and watching the fireworks at the Magic Kingdom right there?
I know.
Can't get it anywhere else.
You can't get it. And those resorts, when you took me around those resorts, man, I was so impressed. And those little waterways, and you got the skyway overhead and all the monorails. It's a wild experience. It's a wild experience. Okay, so let's break it down. What is your favorite? Well, I'll break it down by resort. Okay, we'll do domestic. What's your favorite ride at Disneyland Resort?
Okay, in the whole Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, it could be DCA, Disneyland, and the whole resort favorite attraction.
Oh boy.
Like the one that checks all the boxes for
I
you.
still have to go with, I mean, it breaks down a lot, but I'm sorry, I still have to go with Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I still have to go with Indiana. Radiator Springs Racers is number 2. Again, breaks down a lot, but
yeah.
But we're on Indiana Jones is like, that's like top notch. I think even like with down to the queue.
Oh yeah,
it's
so
like
perfect
from outside inside to the ride going out. It's like, I can't say anything bad about that ride except for the fact that it just breaks down a lot.
Well, and it reminds me very much of like the Renaissance era films that we talked about, how the Renaissance era animation was a perfect balance of like, you know, respecting the past, pulling from the past, but it's fresh and new enough to move things forward, right? So the Indiana Jones adventure is very much like that with the theme parks. It feels very much akin to like a Pirates of the Caribbean, but yet it's next level enough where it pushes that concept forward. So it's, again, that 90s era, that Michael Eisner, that perfect balance. I agree with you. Indiana's my favorite. DCA, also I agree with you. Radiator Springs Racers is definitely my favorite. Those are the two. Another one that I just love because it's so charming, and I always get goosebumps in this attraction for some reason. It's the Enchanted Tiki Room.
Nice.
Singing and just, I don't know, that's such a unique experience. It's a very Disney kind of thing. I just love that. It's a small thing, but I love it.
There are certain attractions, particularly at Disneyland, where and Tiki Room is one of them, where I go in and again it screams Walt.
Yeah, exactly.
It just screams the Tiki Room, the Jungle Cruise, uh, It's a Small World. I mean, like those kind of attractions that when I go in, it's like these are classic, but I don't know, especially at Disneyland, it just is heavily Walt,
It is.
and
No,
I
you're
do
right.
appreciate that.
You're right. Pirates, I feel that. Small World, I feel that. You know, these attractions, you can sense that energy. You know,
Yeah.
It's a wild experience. Now for Florida, now this you have a lot more parks, but less rides.
Yes.
So for Florida, Walt Disney World, what is your favorite attraction? It's tough.
I will have to go because there's two.
Okay.
As far as like overall theming goes, I think my number one would still have to be Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom.
Wow. Okay, we're really on the same level. That's mine too. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that would be my number one as well. Honorable mention though for me, Spaceship Earth. I really dug that because you know why I like that ride so much? It's a little dated, but
That's what I like about it. I
like
think if
about-
they
yeah.
were to update it when Chapek got on that stage and they were kind of saying, "Oh, you'll follow this like little light, it'll tell this story." I'm like, I don't want that shit. Like
I
I just
know.
like keep it classic. Book ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh
interrupt
yeah,
you.
no, you're right. I don't do all that. You know, like you update it, maybe the effects, maybe the animatronics. You know, freshen it up, make it new, but don't do the whole little ball of light thing. I don't know. Maybe it would have turned out cool, but it just sounds really kind of wonky. But I love that. It's a unique experience going up that giant ball, and then all the animatronics. It's a very like kind of. It sounds kind of weird, but it's a very intimate experience because it's very tight quarters the whole way up, you know?
Yeah.
And I just really dug it. And then the way Rome smells, you can't get that
Oh,
out of your
exactly.
head.
The burning books. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, man. And then I actually have two honorable mentions, and
Sure.
these two honorable mentions is a piece of Walt Disney that even though he never got to see the Florida project completed of Walt Disney World, but it feels like I could still kind of feel him there because of these were part of his original designs, and that is actually at the Magic Kingdom with the People Mover and the Carousel of Progress.
Oh yeah, man. Those were great, man. Those were so good. I was getting goosebumps with the Carousel of Progress, and the People Mover to be back on that thing was wild.
Yeah.
That was wild. Another honorable mention for me was the Kilimanjaro Safari.
Oh,
I mean, that's an incredible experience, man. You're going through, and it's like
because we did it twice.
Yeah, we did it twice.
We did it twice. We did it when it was actually the sun was out, and we did it when it was raining. I felt like I don't know about you, but I felt like the animals were more interactive during when it was raining.
Oh, absolutely. They were much more active in the rain. Yeah. And I like on that ride that they don't give the Jeeps like cement streets. Like when you're going through, it's a bumpy ass ride. Like
Yeah.
the whole way. And that adds to that safari feel because they could have paved over that stuff, made a smooth ride for you the whole way through. You know what? Nah, let it be bumpy. It feels more authentic. You know, we were going through it and the giraffes went right up to us. We had to stop as they passed by. And I mean, it's incredible. I've never experienced anything like that before in my life.
And when you go on that ride, you forget you're in. Well, actually, I think when you're in Animal Kingdom completely, you forget you're in Florida.
Oh yeah,
because it's like
crazy.
it does not feel like you're in a Florida park, and that's what makes Animal Kingdom so distinct and so unique than any other theme park that's out there.
Well, that's why I told you when we walked into that place, and all the trees and everything, and it was just like it just hits you like this is an amazing place. The layout is weird, but that's what makes it kind of fun because it gives you that sense of exploration.
Correct.
You're like kind of weaving through, and it's like this exploratory kind of vibe. And then you go like Harambe and stuff. You feel like you're in a completely different country.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, it's just an incredible place. So, yeah, no, Florida, you guys have got some really great stuff over there. But that Kilimanjaro thing, dude, that was an experience and a half. An experience and a half. And you got that Lion King show, which uses the old floats from Disneyland's parade.
Exactly. Yeah, they brought a little taste of Disneyland over to Walt Disney World, which again, I'm so glad that they brought the original show back, A Festival of the Lion King. For the longest time, we didn't have the tumble monkeys, or the aerial dance, up on on the cables and stuff to "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." They just kind of did like a little interpret dance on the stage, and yeah, so there was a lot of scenes that they incorporated back in the show since the Pandy. So I'm glad it's back to its original state.
Yeah, it looked great. It looked really cool. So yeah, now well, let's go international now. Okay,
Okay.
we have Tokyo, Shanghai, and Paris, right? And Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Okay. So out of those 4 resorts, and we've talked about it before in various videos, but hey, we not everyone watches every video.
Exactly.
So out of those 4 resorts, which is your favorite? Like, because you haven't been to any of them yet.
Correct.
So which one is on your top of your list?
Tokyo.
Yeah.
Tokyo all the way, especially with the new fan. I mean, already of what they have. Let's start there. I mean, Tokyo Disney Sea, from what everyone is saying, is the greatest Disney theme park in the world. And I have to be able to experience that myself so I can give a straightforward opinion on that.
Right.
And honestly, it really looks like it cannot disappoint just based off of photos and video footage that I've seen. It's like, wow, I really want to experience this myself.
Yeah.
And then again, Tokyo Disneyland, I've seen a walkthrough of it, and it does kind of give the vibes of Disneyland, and I like that. But it's Tokyo's own, so it's different, but it has the same kind of quintessential Disneyland vibe to it.
Yeah, they cherry pick like it does, because the Japanese love Disneyland, but then I think they loved your castle more, Cinderella's castle more at Disney World. So there's pieces of both kind of in there, which is interesting.
Yeah, and the entrance to Tokyo Disneyland looks very unique, almost like you're kind of like walking through and almost like where you start out like walking through like a train station.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of forge yourself into Main Street, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's called the World Bazaar, I believe.
Yes, correct.
And it has that weird kind of overhang and
overhang,
stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting design.
And then of course I want to experience the enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yeah.
I really want to see that. Fantasy Springs will be opening up with Frozen, Tangled, and Neverland. That looks phenomenal just in itself. And and honestly, I've found myself kind of getting into like the Japanese culture, so just the way that they run things out there, and kind of maybe like see what their like merchandise and food and beverages are, and just kind of get a different atmosphere of the same taste of Disney, but in a different surrounding. I think would be really cool.
Yeah,
but Paris would be a close second for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So Tokyo would be my number 1. That's interesting. Yeah, you know what? I think Paris might be my number 2, because I'm a huge Tony Baxter fan. I love Tony, and he was a huge. I mean, that's his part. Disneyland Paris. I'm very curious. I really love their castle. The thing I love about Disneyland Paris, at least from what I've seen, through media and stuff, like online and YouTube and videos and what have you, it feels intimate like Disneyland, but yet it kind of has a little bit of that grandeur as well of Walt Disney World. Very interesting kind of balance there that they kind of juggled, and I thought that's kind of interesting. So I would, you know what? I think you're right. I think it would be Paris would be my number 2.
Yeah,
but I really do still want to go to Hong Kong Disneyland number 1 now, because that really awesome statue and Mystic Manor.
Exactly. Now, Hong Kong was dead last for me, but since they updated and they're kind of playing the game now, they're like in the content. Honestly, I would go to Hong Kong before Shanghai.
Yeah, I would too. Oh, absolutely. Mystic Manor alone will get me to Hong Kong before Shanghai.
Yeah.
Mystic Manor alone.
But again, but with Shanghai, I'm also curious about the newer, updated version of Pirates.
Oh, that's true.
See, but there's still a little bit more that I would want to experience over Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I would still, I mean, that's probably on my bucket list. Like, I would love to experience all these places at least once in my lifetime.
At least once. And now Hong Kong has that beautiful new frozen area.
Oh man, and to see the look of that at night,
Oh my
I
God,
mean,
dude.
that thing is like Hong Kong's in the running. Like they're not playing.
And that's how you theme a coaster. People talk, okay, look, and then we're gonna get a little controversial here. And I hate to do this on the anniversary video, but I hear a lot of people talking shit about like, like this coaster, right? This frozen coaster or whatever.
Right.
Okay. I mean, this thing is like gorgeous. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Then you see the work being done over there at Epic Universe, where literally it's these steel coasters over like grass and nothing else. Like it's not really that themed at all. Like I think maybe the queue area for some of this stuff is, but the coaster part is out in the open, like any amusement park. But that's the game changer, and we're gonna get over here and nitpick the hell out of this Frozen thing. Are you kidding me? That Frozen coaster, even if it's 15 seconds, I know it's short, but my God, it's freaking gorgeous. The theming is like flawless.
But what more would you want from a coaster? Like it's supposed to be a family coaster. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train isn't that long, but hell, it gets up over 100-minute wait time. So obviously, it's still very popular.
Yeah, and that was long enough for me. I mean, I don't know like the actual runtime, but I love the hell out of Mine Train. We went on it twice, and it felt long enough for me. I don't know how that compares to the length of this Frozen thing.
Right.
But I don't know. You're right. It's a family coaster, but it's beautiful. I mean, people need to just you can be mad about whatever you want to be mad about. But for me, I'm not gonna get all worked up over that. I mean, everything else in that land hits a home run, A plus.
Yeah.
And also the other area opening at what is it? Is it Shanghai? The Zootopia thing?
Oh yeah, yeah. Over in Shanghai.
I don't know. I forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. Shit. Now see, there you go.
That might get me over there because I like that. I like how it looks. It's really well done. So
Yeah.
there's some good things happening, for sure.
Okay, so let me change that. I'd say right now, Hong Kong and Shanghai are kind of tied.
Okay.
For third.
Okay. Fair enough.
For different reasons.
Okay. Now let's dip into the cruise lines. This is a specialty for you. Now I'm getting up there though, George. I got 2 under my belt.
You got 2 under your belt. You're moving on up.
I'm moving on up. So now you've been like on 9, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I've done 9. Yes.
Jeez Louise. Look at baller over here, dude. Look at baller over here. So what is your favorite ship of the cruise line that you've been on?
Boy.
Or if you don't have one, you don't have one. I mean, that's fine,
Well, okay, so for me, it would probably have to be the Disney Dream.
Okay.
And I feel like with the Disney Dream, it holds a little bit of sentimental value to it because that was the first ship that I've been on in its entirety. Like that was my first cruise ever.
Right.
And it was my first Disney cruise. So there's a lot of sentimental value for me. The Disney Dream is my home ship, which currently right now its home base is in Miami. For which eventually I would like to go back on to be able to go back on the Dream again. As far as I kind of still dig the original OG ships, like the Magic and the Wonder, especially the Wonder. I love the Wonder.
Oh, me too.
It's like the smallest of all the ships, but sometimes size doesn't matter. And it's like
it's not the size. Size doesn't matter. It's the motion in the ocean, right? Jordan?
There you go. That's it.
Now, yeah. My favorite is the Wonder because that's my first ship.
Right,
that was my first ship. I went with,
yeah.
Right. I went with my mom, my sister, and stuff. And it's my first ship, and it's that your first ship always has that special place in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Just as I said, like mine is the Dream. So it's
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
But the Wonder is a close second due to the fact of because especially Tiana's place or Tiana's Palace, excuse me, like where it was like that is like one of the best restaurants like that with the overall theme. I did enjoy Arendelle on the Wish. I thought that was pretty cool. I've also done. Did I do Tangled on the Magic? I can't remember. No, I don't think I did Tangled. No, or did I? I forget. I can't remember if I've done Tangled on the Magic or not, but Tiana's Palace, I loved how it was like every night when you eat there, it's like Mardi Gras night.
Oh, it's
It was
incredible.
like perfect.
And because it's at the back of the ship, right? It at least for us, it might have been the speed of the ship at the time as well. But when our first night there, that's where we ate, was Tiana's. And because it's located in the back, it really moves. Like you feel it, it's shaking. But it kind of adds to the theming a little bit because it's kind of like this. You feel like you're going down the bayou, and the whole place is shaking, and there's music, and the energy in that restaurant is absolutely insane. And that's actually one of the things I'm really looking forward to for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. If they can tap into some of that energy, that party kind of New Orleans Mardi Gras style, I think it'll be really, really fun. They do a good job over there with Tiana's. The Wish was go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah. So you've done the Wonder and the Wish. Those were your two.
Right. And the Wish was cool. I really liked the Wish. It was a little different. Like the Wonder has more of like a nautical kind of aesthetic to it. The Wish had a little bit more of that Art Deco, like Buena Vista style stuff that was in there. I like both. I did. The star of the show though, at the Wish was the Dole Whips with the rum. My God, those were good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, they were so good. We ended up taking a nap afterward.
We
right?
did. It's like, we were having a little siesta.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was really the star of the show. Because I'd never had one. I never had a Dole Whip with rum before. They don't have those at Disneyland. I don't think they do, at least.
But and even if they did, but it's just something about like having an alcoholic beverage, like while you're on a cruise ship. And you just have like that sun beaming down on you, clear blue skies, you're up at the pool, and it's like, God. Damn, it's like, I don't want to get off this thing.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. I had such a good time on that Wish. And then the ship itself was fantastic. And we had, remember Ellie? Cast member Ellie?
Yes.
I think that was her name, right?
Ellie, yeah. Yeah.
And she was like, she did a lot of the trivia stuff.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the OG 55 crew, we won the Walt Disney trivia.
We did.
We won it.
We and not to brag or anything, but we creamed those suckers. We creamed. Like all eyes were on us. They were like just waiting for like, okay, you got the answer. It was like
we were like,
we were just like, this is easy peasy. Like they're all sitting there sweating, shaking in their boots, trying to come up with an answer.
Yeah, we got it. We got it so good. So that was fun. And Ellie was one of those standout cast members. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Did she dance? She was up at that pirate party. Like she was down there jamming.
She was jamming. Yeah, she was fantastic. So yeah, the Wish was look, the cruise lines are really the belle of the ball when it comes to like the theme parks. I mean, it's really the gold standard.
It really is. It became where all around it used to be that, quintessential Disney service. I feel like the cruise line had sustained that original kind of intent. And I've never had an issue on the cruise line, but if something did, they knew how to fix it. They knew how to make it better.
Right. No, they above and beyond. Like we had when I went with my family for the Wonder, right? Mm-hmm. My mom, all she wanted was a bag of chips, like just a bag of chips, And the girl told us, she said, the cast member said, oh, you know what? We don't really sell the individualized ones, because it's all these chips are like for the restaurants, right? And they put them on your plate,
Right.
But she said, hold on, let me see what I can do for you. And she comes back up, she knocks on our door, and she literally took like the wholesale, like the bag of chips, like the big ones it didn't even have like a logo on it. It was a white bag that said potato chips. Like it was like almost like a military ration or something, And this is the bag they use for when they put the chips on your plate for the restaurants. But she said, oh, you know what? Okay, she went the extra mile, went down there and got that bag for my mom. And we were like, whoa, that's crazy. My mom was like, that's a lot more than I wanted, but hey, thank you, It's just really cool. And they do that. They go above and beyond over there at the cruise line. So the cast members, top notch. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But George, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, brother, and talking Disney. I mean, hey, happy 100th anniversary, Disney. We love you. We will always love you. I also want to say a big shout out to all all the people of the Walt Disney Company, present or past, that helped shape this company. From everyone from the cast members today to Howard Ashman and Mark Davis and the Nine Old Men and Ward Kimball and just everybody that had their hands in this, and really Michael Eisner, who made this company the way it is. And we love it in large part because of the contributions to all these amazing people. So
Absolutely.
Sherman Brothers, another one. Come on, we can't go.
Absolutely. I mean, they spearheaded Disney music. I think that Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, I mean, they would have had their own, obviously, that type of style, but I still feel like they probably fed off of what the Sherman Brothers did decades before.
Right. Exactly. Just an amazing company with an amazing history. And hey, look, we're going through a rough patch right now. We're going to get through it, though, you guys. We're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. And the company is not collapsing, despite what you hear online.
Yeah.
It's fine.
and Disney has been through a lot of rough patches before. They managed to get out and come on top. And during in that moment, you probably thought back then too, oh God, the Walt Disney Company's collapsing. I mean, Disneyland Paris is a downright unsuccessful piece of crap. Well, look at it now,
Right.
and it's like, oh, Michael Eisner is not doing very well. Well, obviously he did, so it's like at some point in time, you're going to hit that slope before you can projectile back up again.
Right. And you have a company that's been around for 100 years. So you're going to have ebbs and flows in success.
Yeah.
It's unrealistic to expect a company that's been around as long as Disney to just be on the hit train constantly. You're going to have periods of time when you do go into a little bit of a drought, whether it be creatively, financially, both. It's going to happen. So right now, yes, we're on the dip, but we will emerge again just like we always have, and it'll be okay. It will be absolutely okay. I know that we have a good friend here that's actually celebrating the 100th. Not with us right now, but I'm actually going to tap him in. He's on the Millennium Falcon right now, and he wants to say hi because you know what? He's partying it up right now on the 100th. There you go, Chewy. He just wants to say hi. He's drinking a Medea. This guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. But George, thank you, brother, for coming on. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also check out the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And as my brother OG said, big congratulations to the milestone celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. And here's to another 100 more magical years. So cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your favorite stuff that we talked about or least favorite stuff of the Walt Disney Company, whether it be animation, TV, theme parks, cruise lines. Who's your favorite Disney legend? Post that down below, So anything in regards to Disney history, we would love to hear from you in the comments. I have a very special outro today because it is the 100th. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day, everybody.
Welcome to Orange Grove 55.